able to buy them. If there's no further questions from any of the commissioners, may I then invite the second witness to present his evidence?
Thank you.
And I thank you, Mr. Moazam, for your testimony.
Yes, honourable members of the Commission, the next witness is Ruhil Ahmad. His declaration is marked as D2 in the bundle.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I, Ruhil Ahmad, a full aid and a citizen of the United Kingdom, hereby solemnly and sincerely declare as follows. I am a 27-year-old. I live in Sandwell, England, and the purpose of making this declaration is to put on record of my torture in Afghanistan and Guantanamo. In 2001, I, along with 3 friends, travelled to Pakistan for a friend's wedding, which was being organised by his father. We got to Pakistan 3 weeks before the wedding and decided to tour Pakistan. While touring, we also decided to go to Afghanistan to tour and went with an aid organisation from Pakistan to aid the poor people in Afghanistan of medical supply. We travelled to Kandahar through Pakistan with the aid organisation, and as soon as we entered Kandahar, the first day, the bombing commenced by the United States of America. We stayed 2 days in Kandahar and tried to leave back for Pakistan. We were told by the aid organisation that the borders have been sealed and no one can enter or leave. The aid organisation proposed that we follow them to Kabul, where it would be much safer. So we decided to follow them and stayed in Kabul for another 2 weeks. We asked to go back to Pakistan if it was possible, but every day we would be told that the borders are still sealed and it's impossible to leave. After 2 weeks, we were told by a member of the aid organisation that a minibus, 17-seater minibus, would be arranged for us to go back to Pakistan, only if we pay for another 13 individuals. So we paid for these 13 individuals and 4 of us in total to go back to Pakistan. But later on we realised, after driving for 1 day, 1.5 days, we noticed that we was going in a different direction from the direction that we came initially to Kabul. Then the second day after travelling, we ended up in a Taliban compound where there were Taliban fighters and foreign fighters. We asked why have we been brought here, and we was not given any answer. But we was taken to a hut in the mountain of Kunduz, in the north of Afghanistan, where the fighting among the Taliban and the Northern Alliance was very heavy. We was kept in this hut for 2 weeks. Food and water was given. We was allowed to roam around, go to the town, and so forth. No restrictions was imposed on us. I, along with other friends, would go to the Taliban compound training camp and would ask, done it 2-3 days, we'd go and ask what's happening and when would we be able to leave to go back to Pakistan. But we would never be given any answers, as they would say, we don't know anything about your situation. After being there for 2 weeks, we realised that we heard from certain individuals that the Taliban had lost power throughout Afghanistan, except in the north and in the south of Kandahar. So basically we was, the province that I was in, which was Kunduz, was under siege by the Northern Alliance. Well, at the time it was under General Dostum, who was an Uzbeki warlord. Then we were heard and we was told by certain individuals who were supporting the Taliban that the Taliban government had negotiated with General Dostum to give them a safe way back to Kandahar in return for their money, for the vehicles, the weapons, and so forth. We was given two options by the people by the Taliban, that either we can stay in Kunduz and the Northern Alliance, Dostum and his force will take over and we can make our own way back to Pakistan, or they have granted them a safe way, a safe passage back to Kandahar. And they said that we are more welcome to join their convoy. So after discussing this amongst ourselves, the four of us, we decided it is much safer for us to go with the Taliban, to get back home, as there's been a treaty between them. The first night when the Taliban surrendered, we was taken to the outskirts of Kunduz, and we was travelling to Mazar Sharif from what I was told. In between Kunduz and Mazar Sharif is the desert. We was taken to the outskirts of Kunduz. That particular night we had to sleep in the desert, and that night we was bombed upon by the Americans. The whole night we ran and tried to hide in caves, and many people got killed that night. In the morning, I, amongst my friends, that night we lost one of our friends, Munir, who till this day is not with us, and we don't know where he is. In the morning, we buried those who were dead. We tried to attend those who were wounded. A few years later, the Taliban came in the trucks and vehicles, and we were told to board. And then we were driven further deep into the desert, where there was a front line, a temporary front line erected by the Northern Alliance, where the Taliban was surrendering themselves over. So we also surrendered ourselves over. We had great difficulties communicating because of the language barrier we had. We couldn't explain what we was doing in Afghanistan. So the Northern Alliance assumed that we were also part of the Taliban and arrested us. We was then marched through the desert for 2 days without any food and water. While we marched through the desert by General Dostum and his forces, I had witnessed American soldiers to be present in the jeeps and the buggies. So I think the whole operation was under the supervision of the United States Army. After marching through the desert for 2 days, we was put onto trucks and driven to Mazar Sharif, where we were photographed first, and after at 6 p.m., roughly at 6 p.m, we was made to board long vehicles made of containers, and some of the containers were made of canvas. I was one of the lucky ones who was put into a canvas container along about 200 to 300 people per container. After being in the container for 30 minutes, I heard noise and banging from the other vehicles. And as my vehicle was made of canvas, we ripped open the canvas and stuck our head out, and I'd seen the other containers, which was made of metal. People were inside and banging. And I presume they were banging because of lack of oxygen, because these containers were only designed to transport goods from A to B. It was not designed for humans. So obviously the ventilation, there was not enough air for the people who were in the containers, and they started suffocating and banging. That resulted in the Northern Alliance shooting the bottom side of the container, which resulted of killing and wounding many people. My friend